car stopped too quickly. My shoulder jerked forward. The seatbelt cut across my chest. "Here we are," Colette said, already unbuckling. Her tone was too bright, too calm. I looked out the window. This wasn't a cafe. It was beige brick. 3 stories, no signage except a small brass plate, Willow Creek Residential Care. I didn't move. "This isn't..." She cut me off. "It's just a short intake. You'll have your own space. Time to rest. They have a garden." She stepped out, slammed her door, and came around to mine. I didn't reach for the handle. She opened it for me, leaned in, kissed my cheek. I signed everything. "It's done." My feet hit the pavement. I didn't remember deciding to get out. The wind smelled like chlorine and burnt toast. A nurse appeared at the double doors holding a clipboard and a plastic badge with a lanyard. "Marlene Royce." I nodded. She smiled. "We've been expecting you." There was a bag with my name on it sitting by the door. Not a suitcase. Not the leather one Arthur bought me years ago. Just a zippered duffel I didn't recognize. Already packed. Colette squeezed my hand and whispered, "We'll come visit. This is best for all of us." Then she turned. She didn't wait for the nurse. She didn't look back. The automatic doors slid open. I walked inside. The walls were beige like outside. Too many corners. Everything smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. The nurse led me down the hall. She talked about routines, medication windows, activity charts, but I didn't listen. The room was ready. Twin bed, laminate dresser, single armchair, no books, no pictures, no calendar. She gestured toward a clipboard on the desk. "Welcome package. You'll sign a few things after dinner." I looked at the blank walls. "This is temporary, right?" I asked. She paused. "Oh? You'll have to speak to your daughter." She left. I sat on the bed. The springs creaked. I stared at the duffel bag. I unzipped it. Inside, one sweater, one toothbrush, one small envelope with my name in Colette's handwriting. No return address. I opened it. Inside, insurance card list of emergency contacts Colette and Ethan. Note: "Don't worry, Mom. You'll be safe here. We'll visit once you're settled." I put the note back. That night, I lay on the bed fully dressed. The hallway light never turned off. I listened to the wheels of a food cart rolling past. A man in the next room moaned in his sleep. No one said goodnight. No one called. I counted each breath slow and steady until morning light bled through the blinds. By breakfast, they had my chart posted outside the door. Royce Marlene, long term. I didn't cry. I sat up, combed my hair, put on my shoes. I asked the nurse for coffee. She said it wasn't on the morning list. I asked again, louder. She brought it in a paper cup. Lukewarm. I took it. Sat in the chair by the window. Watched the parking lot. Watched no one come back. The bag stayed by the dresser, half-open zipper, dangling. At lunch, I folded the napkin 3 times, smoothed it flat, smoothed it again. Dinner was meatloaf. No salt, no dessert. That night, I locked the bathroom door behind me, turned the faucet on, and whispered my husband's name. I asked if he saw. I asked if he'd stayed quiet too. When I came out, someone had slipped a document under my door. Power of attorney, already signed. My signature at the bottom. The one I gave her weeks ago, just insurance stuff. Colette's name. Ethan's too. I folded it neatly, slid it into the desk drawer. Didn't rip it. Didn't cry. I took the paper cup to the trash. Flipped the lights. Crawled into bed. And in the dark, I made one promise they would regret forgetting I still remembered everything. I unpacked in silence. No one helped. No one asked. 3 drawers, 2 sweaters, 1 scarf I hadn't worn since Arthur's funeral. I folded it slowly, pressed it flat, tucked it into the bottom drawer like it meant something. The sheets were thin, patternless, stiff. The pillow still smelled like bleach. I opened the closet. A plastic hanger dangled from a bent rod. No shelves, no hooks, no mirror. I shut it again. On the dresser, a laminated checklist. Medication at 9, lunch at 12. Reading hour at 3. I didn't see a book. No lamp, no clock. I opened the blinds. Outside, a small square courtyard with cracked concrete and a plastic bench. A man sat slumped to one side. One slipper missing. He wasn't asleep. Just gone somewhere else. I closed the blinds. The chair creaked when I sat. Too low, too soft. The cushions sank under my weight like it hadn't held anyone in months. There was no picture frame on the wall. No welcome note. No vase. The duffel bag still sat by the door half unzipped. I finished the water from the paper cup. The plastic cracked in my hand. I dropped it in the trash without looking. Dinner came at 5. A nurse with pink scrubs knocked once and entered. No smile. "Meatloaf or turkey," she said. I pointed. Didn't answer. She set the tray down and left. It was lukewarm. The peas were gray. I ate slowly, not because I was savoring it, just delaying what came after. The silence. I scraped the last bite, folded the napkin, left the tray by the door. Then I sat. And sat. The TV in the hall mumbled something about rain in Oregon. The walls didn't echo. They swallowed. At 8:15 p.m., the nurse returned. Took my vitals, wrote something on the chart. She didn't look me in the eye. She closed the door halfway and left it there. Like she wasn't sure if I still counted. I lay in bed, fully dressed. Shoes off. Everything else still on. I stared at the ceiling, followed a small crack to the corner. It disappeared into the edge of the fluorescent light. Footsteps passed. A wheelchair squeaked. Then voices, right outside. "She just got dropped off today," someone whispered. "Yeah," another answered, younger, sharper. "Daughter signed her in. Didn't even stay 5 minutes. Damn. Lucky she didn't end up in state care." Footsteps again. Laughter. The door stayed half open. I got up, shut it gently, locked it. I sat back on the bed, and I waited. Not for them. For the part of me that still hadn't spoken. For the voice that used to say, "You don't deserve this and this isn't the end, and get up." It came slowly. Faint. But it came. I stood. Opened the drawer. Took out the power of attorney. Ran my finger over the fake signature. I memorized the notary seal. Every line. Every typo. Then I slid it back in. Carefully. Folded. Undamaged. Because I would need it soon. And when I used it, they'd know I'd seen everything. They'd know I didn't forget. I pulled the thin blanket over my chest. Turned to the wall. Let the quiet hold me. Tomorrow, I'd start watching. The basket hit the floor with a thud. I hadn't ordered anything. The nurse said it came from my daughter. "Just a little something for your room?" She smiled. I didn't smile back. She left. I waited. Then I opened it. 2 mini potted plants plastic. 1 bag of sugar-free candy. A crossword book. No pen. And an envelope tucked behind a fake sunflower. My name printed in sharp black ink. Not handwriting. A machine did it. Inside papers. Legal ones. First page, power of attorney. General and medical. Effective immediately. Agent Colette Abrams, secondary. Ethan Abrams. The notary seal was fresh. Last week's date. My signature was at the bottom. My name in cursive. But I hadn't signed anything since moving here. I stared at it. Then I remembered. 2 weeks ago. Her kitchen. I was stirring soup. She slid the papers over clipped together. "It's just your insurance update, Mom." Routine. I didn't read. My glasses were in the other room. I trusted her. I signed. They'd prepared this long before the drop-off. I looked closer. Ethan's signature. Slanted, fast, impatient. I knew his handwriting too. It wasn't just her. They'd done it together. Planned it. Filed it. Used it. I held the document with both hands. Not to tear it. Not yet. I wanted to feel its weight. I wanted to know what betrayal felt like when printed on legal paper. It didn't feel sharp, just heavy. I flipped the pages. Section 4, access to bank accounts. Section 5, authority to sell assets. Section 7, medical consent override. Everything. They had written me off while I was still breathing. I folded the letter, pressed every crease flat, slid it under the mattress. They'd sent it to gloat, not to inform. I stared at the plastic potted plant. Then I picked it up and turned it upside down. A price tag still stuck to the bottom. Clearance bin. $3.49. I dropped it into the trash. The crossword book followed. Dinner was roast chicken. Tough. Dry. No sauce. The nurse asked if I liked the gift. I said it was appropriate. She didn't ask what I meant. At 7:45, a resident 2 doors down started coughing. Loud. Wet. No one came for 10 minutes. I sat in the hallway chair, watched the red emergency light blink above his door. No one noticed me. Good. I went back to my room, locked the door, opened the bottom drawer. Inside my old checkbook. Still there, blank. But next to it, a small manila envelope I didn't remember packing. I opened it. Inside, Monica Reeves' business card. Family lawyer, friend of Arthur, hadn't spoken in years, but I knew her number by heart. I picked up the phone on the nightstand, no dial tone, disconnected. I set the receiver down slowly. Back in the envelope behind the card was an old receipt, a bank withdrawal, my name, my account. The balance $48.122, untouched. They didn't know about that account. I sat back on the bed, held the card, held the silence. I wasn't powerless. Not yet. But they wanted me to believe I was. Every gift they sent was a brick in the wall they were building around me. Tomorrow, I'd start knocking on it. I tore the date from the calendar. Not because I was angry, because it meant nothing here. No balloons, no candle, not even a question. Breakfast tray. Oatmeal. Lukewarm. No fruit. I ate in silence. I didn't expect a cake. But I thought maybe a text. A message. A 2-second call. Nothing. At 10:13 a.m., a staff member wheeled in to check vitals. She glanced at the clipboard. "Oh," she said. "Happy birthday." I nodded once. She sang 2 lines. Off key. Walked out before the third. I folded the napkin on my tray. Stared at the spot where a card might have been. Colette had never missed a birthday. Even at her busiest college internship's maternity, she'd remembered. A voicemail. A bouquet. 1 year, just a voicemail, but still her voice. This year, nothing. No Ethan. No Tyler. No FaceTime call with forced smiles. Not even the courtesy of pretending. They'd erased it. At noon, I asked to sit outside. The nurse rolled me out with a blanket on my lap, even though I didn't ask for one. The sun barely reached past the overhang. 2 residents were asleep in their chairs. One was humming to herself with no melody. I closed my eyes. I counted backward from 60. 3 times. Still nothing. At dinner, the nurse said, "They must be planning something special. Maybe a late celebration." I didn't answer. After the lights dimmed and the hall settled into that dry rustle of night, the shuffle of socks, the distant beeping, I heard her voice. Not Colette's. My nurse's. She was on FaceTime with someone. I couldn't see, but I could hear every word. "No, she's okay. Quiet, mostly. Keeps to herself." Pause. Then, "Yeah, her daughter signed her in. Said she needed rest. That she wasn't stable at home." Another pause. "Oh no. Not a psych case. Just burnout. Old age, I guess." A laugh. Soft. Casual. Then the part that cut deepest. "She moved out. Doctor's orders." That's what the daughter said. Moved out. As if I packed a bag. As if I chose this. As if I left a note and closed the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed. Barefoot. Still in my day clothes. I stared at the same duffel bag Colette packed, still in the corner, still half unzipped. The same toothbrush, the same cardigan folded on top. I hadn't touched it since the first night. If you looked at that bag, you'd think I was temporary. But they didn't plan for me to leave. They planned for me to disappear. The next morning, I asked the nurse for stamps. She blinked. What for letters, I said. Old-fashioned habit. She gave me 3. I didn't write any letters, but I did start listing names, neighbors, former co-workers, Monica, the woman who runs the church newsletter, people who still remembered I existed, people who could remind others. I kept the list under my mattress, beside the power of attorney, beside the card. I folded a blank page and wrote 1 line. I didn't move out. I was moved. Then I tucked it back. Because they forgot my birthday. But I hadn't forgotten theirs. I opened the envelope before she even left the room. The young aide didn't notice. She had earbuds and gum in her mouth, half her mind somewhere else. She handed me the morning mail, 2 community flyers, and 1 thin envelope addressed to me. No return address. But the stamp was local. She moved on. I tore the flap open with 1 finger. Inside a property tax receipt. Folded, crisp, no note. At first I thought it was a mistake, meant for Colette, but then I saw the name at the top, mine, Marlene J. Royce parcel. ID 3837-0194, property address, 3112, Harmony. Glen Drive, my house. Still listed under my name, still active, still taxable. I stared at the assessment summary, paid in full. 2 months ago, via personal check, but not from my checkbook. I flipped to the second page. There, bottom right corner, Colette's name scribbled under authorized payer. But not owner, not trustee. I checked again. The deed hadn't been transferred. The title hadn't been amended. I was still the legal owner. I read the line again out loud this time just to hear it. Ownership record remains under Marlene J. Royce as of last file date. I ran my finger over the ink. Sharp, printed from a county office. Official. They'd moved me out, forged my signature on a power of attorney, blocked my phone line, and never finished the job. They didn't even check the title. They thought power was enough. They assumed I was too old, too tired, too distant to matter. They never expected paperwork to speak louder than signatures. I folded the receipt, once, twice, flattened every crease, slid it under the mattress with the rest, and I smiled. Not wide, not proud, but quiet, certain. That night, the nurse came in for evening meds. She asked how I was feeling. Settled, I said. She didn't hear the difference. She nodded and made a note. When she left, I stared at the ceiling, followed the crack across the plaster again. This time I didn't feel small beneath it. I felt still. I felt ready, because they thought the house was already theirs. They spoke like it was, told the neighbors I had moved, changed the locks, canceled my magazine subscriptions. They forgot the one thing you should never forget when stealing something. Check the paperwork. The next morning, I folded the bedspread neatly, smoothed the corners, sat by the window. A new staff member passed in the hallway. She peeked in. "You're always so tidy," she said. "Most folks stop bothering after the first month." I nodded. She left. I looked out at the parking lot, watched the cars pull in and out. One silver SUV, familiar shape, same as Colette's. It didn't park. It circled once, drove off. Maybe she was checking to see if I was still here. I was. And now I had a reason to stay just a little longer. I clenched the paper cup tighter. The nurse had left the TV on again, low volume closed captions scrolling slowly. I wasn't watching. Not really. I was watching the aide 2 doors down, the one with the chipped pink nails and the sideways ponytail. She always scrolled during breaks, earbuds in forgetting we were still here. She laughed once, paused, tilted her phone to someone else, whispered something I couldn't catch. Then she said it aloud. Damn. This guy really said that in front of everyone I turned. She caught my glance and hesitated, unsure if I'd heard her. I waited. She looked at the screen, then at me. "Do you want to see something kind of insane?" she asked. I nodded once. She walked over, showed me her phone, a video, already muted, captions burned into the screen, a backyard I recognized instantly, my backyard, my stone birdbath, my azaleas in the corner that I'd trimmed myself every spring. Ethan stood under the pergola, wearing a crisp blue button-down, holding a beer. Colette hovered behind him, laughing quietly with two of her friends. In the background, my porch light was still burned out. I'd meant to change it the week they took me. Ethan raised his voice. "Colette and I are reviving this property. It's ours now. Just needed to clear out some old weight." Laughter. Someone toasted him. The camera shook slightly, then zoomed out. 30 or so guests. Catered food. A table of wine glasses. Children playing near the fence. My fence. My chair had been moved, relocated near the trash bins. The garden hose was coiled and hung wrong. The swing was gone. They'd erased me, but not well. I watched the clip 3 times. I didn't blink. The aide said, "It's going around." Someone tagged the address. She pulled down the caption. I saw the post. Username anonymous. Tag, J. Abrams Backyard Revival. Location 3 and 12, Harmony Glen Drive. I nodded. "That's mine," I said. The aide blinked. "What?" "The house? That's mine." She glanced at the phone back at me. "Well, yeah. Your daughter." "No," I said, quiet and sharp. "It's still mine." She didn't answer, just backed away. "Sorry." I didn't mean I waved her off. She left. I sat with that video playing in my mind, the guests, the laughter. The way Ethan said old weight like I was a couch, a filing cabinet, a smell they couldn't scrub out. He spoke with ease, confidence, because he believed it was his, because he believed I was gone. But I wasn't. And now there was proof. Proof he'd claimed what wasn't his. Proof he'd spoken publicly. Proof someone else had seen it, posted it, shared it. I turned off the TV, walked to the drawer, pulled out the deed copy, the tax receipt, the notary stamped forgery, spread them out on the desk like playing cards. Then I opened the envelope I'd hidden deep inside the lining of the duffel bag. Inside, a stamped envelope, already addressed. I slid the business card in, wrote one word on the folded note. Ready, I sealed it. Tomorrow I'd ask for outgoing mail. Just one letter. No rush, no questions. Let them keep throwing parties. Let them laugh on my porch. The invitation won't say when I'm coming back. I lifted the receiver again. Still nothing. No dial tone, no hum. Just silence. Flat and deep, like a closed door. I set it back down. Waited. Then picked it up again. Still dead. I pressed the nurse call button. She came in cheerful. Always cheerful. "Yes, Miss Marlene, I'd like to make a phone call." She hesitated. "Well, we don't allow direct dialing from the rooms, but I can help you with the office line if it's approved." Approved by who? She smiled. "Your daughter. She's listed as primary contact. For your well-being." "My well-being doesn't require silence," I said. She tilted her head. "I understand. I really do. But Mrs. Abrams requested a communication block for now, just until you're fully settled." She said outside calls were overstimulating. "I'm not a toddler," I said. My voice didn't shake. She kept smiling. "Can you check anyway?" I asked. She nodded. "I'll ask the director." She didn't come back. That afternoon, I went to the activity board, not to sign up, to see the flyer. The community board always had church events. Guest visits, prayer circles. I found the latest First Baptist Weekly. My name wasn't there. I flipped to the prayer list. I used to be at the top, ever since Arthur passed. They always included me. Not this time. I checked the birthday section. Nothing. I scanned the fellowship notes. Colette Abrams and family hosted a beautiful garden brunch in honor of spring renewal, it read. No mention of me. Just and family. I sat in the corner chair beside the coffee machine, poured a cup, let it go cold in my hands. Then I whispered the name I hadn't said in weeks. Marcia, my neighbor. 32 years. She saw me every Tuesday, brought tomatoes from her garden. We'd traded casserole recipes, shared fence repairs. She called me Dear Never Ma'am. I tried again. Went back to the front desk. I'd like to call my neighbor. She's local. No family conflict. The receptionist checked the chart. External calls are still blocked, I'm afraid. Just one number. I can't override that. Only the medical proxy can. That word again. Proxy. Colette had locked every door but left the illusion of choice. Walk the garden. Color in the lounge. Drink decaf. Be quiet. Even my name was slipping from records. I sat in the common room staring at the exit. A man walked by with a visitor badge, spoke loudly on his phone. No one stopped him. I watched the line stretch from his ear to his world still intact. Mine had been cut, and no one noticed. At night, I pulled out my binder, started listing names, one by one. Marcia Kingsley, Helen from choir, Mrs. Kim from the library, old accountant Jacob R. Morris, Monica Reeves, underlined twice. Every line was someone who used to say my name without hesitation. Now, none of them could reach me, and I couldn't reach them. That was the point. Not to isolate, to erase. I folded the list, slipped it into my pillowcase. Not for hiding, for remembering. They may have disconnected the phones, but I still remembered every number. I asked for the dentist. Not for a toothache, for a window. A window to move, to send, to remind the world I hadn't vanished. The nurse blinked at my request. We don't have one on site, but I can call for an appointment. Please, I said, calm. She nodded, made a note. It might take a few days. I can wait. She smiled like I was being reasonable. I wasn't. I was sharpening the blade. 3 days later, they wheeled me to the van. The driver was young, distracted. He hummed something off-tune while helping me in. The nurse rode beside me, clipboard purse, and a tote with my chart. I clutched the manila envelope under my sweater. Slim, taped shut. As the van pulled out of the lot, I adjusted the blanket over my lap. My fingers worked, slow practiced. I slid the envelope into the side pocket of the nurse's tote. She didn't notice. She was texting someone. I sat back. Let the road hum beneath us. 20 minutes later, we reached the medical building. I answered all the dentist's questions. Let them poke, scrape, polish. They said my teeth were surprisingly good for my age. I smiled. Didn't bite. Back in the van, the envelope was gone from the pocket. I watched the nurse zip her tote shut. Delivery underway. Inside the envelope, a copy of the property deed. My name, bold centered. Still the owner. A joint account ledger from 2016. Final entry, Arthur Royce to Marlene J. Royce rollover, amount $218,000. A one-page note to Monica Reeves, attorney at law. Please review enclosed documents. I authorize contact. This is not a medical matter. This is estate-related. MJR. I hadn't spoken to Monica in years, but Arthur trusted her. That was enough. Back in my room, I sat in the stiff chair by the window. Watched a bird pick at crumbs near the sidewalk. Watched an aide sweep leaves with no interest in direction. Watched a woman in a robe stare blankly at the hedge for 15 minutes straight. I wasn't wasting time. I was buying it. At dinner, the nurse smiled like always. She didn't know what she'd carried. And that was the point. She didn't need to know. She was just the courier. I chewed slowly. Chicken again. Sauce too sweet. I folded my napkin into a square. When I returned to my room, I opened the binder under the bed, checked my list, crossed out Monica's name. Beside it, I wrote in small letters, "Envelope sent 3 to 17. Wait for response." I slipped the pen back into the spine pocket, closed the binder, listened. Nothing. Silence is heavy when it's planned, but silence after a move, that's strategy. Because if Colette and Ethan thought they were inheriting a life, they forgot something crucial. I still owned it. And now someone else knew. I sat in the courtyard and waited. No wind, just heat trapped in the bricks. The fountain gurgled behind me barely enough to cover the shuffle of tired shoes and squeaky walkers. She arrived on time. Khaki slacks, neutral cardigan badge that read, "Therapeutic Consultant." Volunteer in large, cheerful letters. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, but her eyes still sharp. "Miss Marlene," she said, tone light, friendly. I nodded. She sat across from me at the iron table, pulled a plastic thermos from her tote, brought peppermint. "Hope that's all right." I smiled faintly. Used to be my favorite. She poured 2 cups. No sugar, no spoon, just steam and ritual. No one watched us. To them, we were just 2 women with teacups and nothing urgent left to say. She placed a crocheted lap blanket across my knees. Too warm for it, but I didn't argue. Under the blanket, a manila folder. She didn't speak about it. She didn't need to. I moved slowly, slid my left hand beneath the edge, opened the folder with 1 finger. 3 pages. Top page, revocation of durable power of attorney. Second, reinstatement of trust authority. Monica Reeves Escura's executor. Third, verification of identity. Notarized and witnessed. Already stamped. I reached into my sleeve, drew out the pen I'd taped inside the seam last night. Ballpoint. Black ink. Still worked. 1 signature. 1 name. 1 line. Marlene Joyce Royce. No trembling. Just ink. I slid the pages back in, closed the folder, nudged it toward her with the heel of my palm beneath the blanket. She lifted her teacup, took 1 slow sip, then folded the blanket gently over her lap. Folder hidden underneath. "Well," she said, "thank you for sitting with me today. These courtyard chats help more than people think." I smiled. "Nice to speak to someone who doesn't call me sweetie." We both chuckled. Quiet, controlled. She stood, smoothed her pants. "I'll be back next week. Same time. Only if you bring the peppermint." She winked. "Wouldn't dream of forgetting." Then she walked away. No staff questioned her. No eyes followed. I sat with the cup in my hand until it cooled. Stared at the shadow the blanket had left on my knees. 10 minutes later, a breeze picked up. Someone wheeled a resident out beside me. The nurse fussed with a blanket, asked if I was enjoying the air. I nodded. Sipped cold tea. Didn't speak. Because the power hadn't returned in her voice or her badge or her clever disguise. It had returned the moment I signed my name. Not scribbled, not shaky, but whole. It didn't matter what Colette had filed. It didn't matter what Ethan had said on the back porch, calling me old weight like a lawn ornament he'd finally hauled to the curb. Their house of paper was missing a cornerstone, and now the woman who held it was walking out the front gate with everything they'd ignored tucked beneath her arm. I unlocked the window at midnight, only halfway. Just enough to feel the shift in air. She came in quietly. No knock, no light, no badge this time. Just a folder in hand and a look I hadn't seen since Arthur's funeral, the kind that says, "This won't be pretty, but it will be just." Monica sat at the edge of the chair by the sink. No small talk, no tea. She opened the folder. "They filed for full control last week," she said. "Claimed medical incapacity. Presented the old POA. The forged one," I said. She nodded. "I filed the revocation with the court this morning. It's already entered. County clerk verified it at 3:12 p.m. I exhaled slowly. She flipped another page. "They also tried to freeze the joint fund. claimed suspicious withdrawals. But they didn't know the fund was moved into the Royce Legacy Trust 6 years ago. You're the sole trustee. I blinked. She handed me the verification sheet. My name, top of the ledger, uninterrupted authority. They can't touch it, she said. They didn't even know it existed. Of course not, I murmured. Arthur handled that side of the house. She smiled faintly. And now you do. She slid one more page across the table. Not legal, just typed. Property audit, Harmony Glen Drive. Still deeded to Marlene Joyce Royce. No transfer, no pending sale, no liens. She leaned in, whispered, they've been spending like it's already theirs, remodeling, hosting, planning a guest house. I saw the video, I said. He called me old weight. Monica's eyes narrowed. You want to fight, I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked at the folder. The proof, the leverage, the life they tried to erase written down in black ink. Then I looked at her. Not yet, I said. I want them to believe they've won first. She nodded once, understood instantly. Let them get comfortable, I added. Let them make more noise. More rope, she said quietly. I smiled. Exactly. She tucked the folder back into her coat. We'll play slow, quiet, but deliberate. No fireworks, I said. Not until they're standing right under them. Monica rose, stepped toward the window. Before she left, she paused. They have no idea who they locked away. I didn't move. That's the only part they got right. She disappeared into the dark. I closed the window, sat on the edge of the bed. Tomorrow, I would smile for the staff, take my pills. Fold the napkin just right at breakfast. Let them all keep believing I'd settled. Because a war doesn't start when the blade is drawn. It starts when the other side thinks you don't have one. I signed the papers with steady hands. The receptionist didn't blink. Just highlighted the date, asked if I needed assistance packing. I smiled. No bags. She gave a nod, polite but puzzled. I asked for a copy, folded it, slipped it into the front pocket of my sweater. Wellness retreat, the form read. Temporary, voluntary. No red flags. No protests from Colette because she hadn't been told. That was the point. Monica waited in a borrowed car around the back engine, idling sunglasses low on her nose. No clipboard, no briefcase. Just the calm expression of someone who knew how this ended. I didn't wave goodbye to the staff, didn't pause at the fish tank or the faded bulletin board. I walked out like I'd always belonged outside. The air hit me sharp. Free air always does. I climbed into the car without help. Monica glanced over. They'll notice in about an hour. By then, I'll be a rumor, I said. We drove. No music, no questions. Just the road stretching flat and honest in front of us. She took me to the small cottage first her sister's place empty this season. Clean sheets, a working kitchen, a lock on the door that only I held. I didn't unpack. There wasn't anything to unpack. Only one thing I brought, the binder, nestled in my lap the whole ride like a relic. I set it on the kitchen table, opened it flat, smoothed the creases. Inside, the names, the receipts, the signatures they'd forgotten to fear. I called the bank first, asked to confirm one detail. The account balance came back whole, untouched. Next voicemail to the church secretary. This is Marlene. I'm well, more than well. Please update the prayer list. Then a text to Marcia. Tea soon. My place. And finally, an email. One line, no greeting. To Renovations Harmony Home Services. Subject revoke all access body. Effective immediately. Property owner Marlene J. Royce. Send. I closed the laptop. Let the silence return. By noon, Monica had arranged 3 appointments. Accountant, trust manager, estate planner. They would come to me now. I didn't have to chase clarity anymore. I sat on the porch that evening with a real cup of coffee, strong, dark, no sugar. Listened to the birds I hadn't heard in months. Watched the sun touch the treetops like an apology. I thought about how many people never get to leave quietly. How many beg for their voice back only to be dismissed with a pat on the hand and a locked door. But I hadn't begged. I'd planned. And now I wasn't missing. I was moving. I paid in cash. No questions asked. Room 204. Top floor, end unit. Curtains thin enough to see shadows but thick enough to keep secrets. From the window, I watched my own house. Contractors came first. Loud voices. Boot prints on the grass Arthur had trimmed every Saturday. They tore out the hedges, hauled in modern patio furniture, rolled out a rug so white it hurt to look at. Next came the boxes. Big ones, small ones, stamped with designer labels and brand names I never bought. 2 delivery trucks by noon. Ethan supervised with a beer in hand. Colette trailed behind, pointing, correcting, grinning. They weren't rushing. They were nesting. On Friday, a catering van pulled up. Then the music started. Jazz, of all things. Ethan hated jazz. Arthur loved it. They strung lights from the porch to the trees, hung paper lanterns like it was someone's wedding. I stood at the window, motionless, watching every string bulb flicker on. Monica parked 2 blocks away, walked up the side path like she belonged there, blended in with the crowd phone angled down at her hip. 10 minutes, 6 video clips. She walked back past my motel room after sunset, tossed me a flash drive as she passed, kept walking. Inside, everything. Ethan bragging by the grill. She had no clue. We told her it was a spa weekend, and she signed the POA herself. Can you believe it? Laughter. Colette's voice. We might turn her room into a wine cellar. More laughter. Another voice asked, so it's officially yours now. Ethan, please. Mom doesn't even know what day it is. She can barely work a phone. The house is as good as ours. They toasted. I didn't cry. I watched every second, then rewound, paused, replayed, the arrogance, the comfort. They really believed they'd won. I shut the laptop, poured myself a glass of water from the motel sink, drank slowly. I didn't need a toast. I had the title, the trust, the deed. And now I had footage, evidence, not emotion. I didn't want apologies. I wanted proof. I wrote the letter in one sitting, no edits, no second thoughts, straightforward, legal, clean, notice of eviction, effective immediately. Issued by Marlene Joyce Royce, sole owner of 18 Harmony Glen Drive. Unlawful occupants have 10 business days to vacate the premises. I signed it. Pressed hard. The pen left a slight dent in the table. Monica printed 3 copies. Had it notarized. Called the courier. Make sure it's handed to him directly, I said. Not the wife, not the maid. Him. The man nodded. Wore gloves. Said he'd head out immediately. I didn't follow. I was already where I needed to be across the street. Room 204. Curtain open just enough. I watched. It was 11:38 a.m. Ethan was in the middle of a Zoom call. I could see him through the large front window, pacing in a blazer with pajama pants. Colette hovered nearby, holding her phone scrolling. The courier arrived right on time. Professional. Polite. Envelope in hand. Knocked twice. Ethan turned his head, frowned, muted his call, and opened the door. The moment he took the envelope, I leaned forward. He peeled it open like it was another delivery receipt, then stopped. His mouth twitched. He turned the page, read again. Then his voice shattered the quiet. What eviction notice from Wu? The microphone was still on. His co-workers heard every word. He slammed the laptop shut. Colette rushed over, grabbed the paper from his hand. Her eyes scanned fast. Her mouth stayed open like she forgot how to breathe. She turned to him. She can't do this. He stared at her. It says she already did. They stood frozen. Colette tried calling someone, probably their lawyer. Maybe mine. No answer. I watched as she dropped the phone, picked up the letter again, and flung it across the room. It landed near the fireplace and slid to a stop on the floor like a grenade without a pin. I sipped my coffee. No sugar, no cream, just heat and weight. They didn't notice the camera in the corner catching the whole scene. Monica had installed it last week during her mediation visit, wired discreetly into the porch light. Footage was already uploading to a secure drive. Inside, Ethan stormed toward the kitchen, muttering curses. Colette followed, trying to spin it into something lighter. It's probably a misunderstanding. She's confused. This can't be enforceable. But her voice was thinner than it used to be, because deep down, they knew I hadn't just mailed a letter. I'd returned, not through the front door, through the law, through every signature they didn't think I'd remember how to write. I stood up, walked to the mirror, smoothed my sweater, brushed the steam off my glasses. They'd tried to erase me, but now every word I wrote was the ink reappearing, and the next one would be louder. They set the table for 12. I saw it from across the street, white linens, polished silver crystal glasses that had once been mine. Colette wore a deep red dress, too bold for comfort, too rehearsed for grief. Ethan paced the hallway, checking his watch. Every few minutes he peeked through the blinds. I sat in the rental car Monica borrowed from her cousin. Engine off. Window cracked. Steam from my coffee mixing with the air like a silent foghorn. Guests arrived one by one. Aunt Denise from Fresno. Uncle Hal with his new girlfriend. Ethan's boss, yes, even him. A carefully curated group of people who hadn't called me once since I disappeared. They clinked glasses. They toasted fresh beginnings. Colette floated around the table like a hostess auditioning for sainthood. And then Aunt Denise leaned back. Fork paused over salad. "Where's Marlene?" she asked. The table hushed. Just for a second. Colette laughed. Too loud. Too fast. "She's better off where she is," she said. Like it was a joke. Like I was some poor stray they'd gently put down behind the barn. Forks moved again. Napkins dabbed corners of mouths. Denise didn't smile. Ethan refilled her wine. They served chicken. Rosemary, if my nose was right. Arthur used to hate rosemary. It dried out the meat. I waited. Dessert came a store-bought cake pretending to be homemade. Then the knock. 3 wraps. Sharp. No hesitation. Colette flinched. Ethan stood. Walked to the door still chewing. The courier wore a blazer-pressed shirt badge, clipped clean to his belt. "Mr. Ethan Royce," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, you've been served." A large envelope handed over. Another for Colette. A third placed on the table beside the untouched cake. "Legal notice of asset seizure," he said. "Per Superior Court order. Property and financial account holdings now frozen pending review." Silence. Ethan blinked. Colette didn't. Someone's fork clattered against the plate. The courier nodded. Walked out. Door shut behind him with a sound that felt final. Ethan opened the first page. His mouth moved, but no sound came. Colette reached for the envelope, read over his shoulder. Her lipstick smudged at the corner of her mouth. Denise leaned forward. "What's going on?" Colette looked up. Eyes wild. Nothing. Just paperwork. "It's a mix-up." Ethan dropped the letter like it burned. "This says the house is under dispute," he muttered. "That it's not ours to modify, lease, or sell." He looked at the guests, at the wine, at the lights overhead. And then he looked at her. "You told me she was out. You told me we were covered." Colette stood still. Her hands shook. Across the street, I turned off the car's interior light. I didn't need to see the rest. I'd already lived the first act of this play. Now it was their turn to perform, with the wrong script. I stepped onto the porch before they did, binder under my arm, deed in my hand. I sat in the same wooden chair Arthur built the year he retired. The paint had chipped. The legs leaned left, but it still held me steady. The neighborhood hadn't changed much. Same dog 3 doors down barking at passing bikes. Same wind tugging at the old wind chimes Ethan once called tacky. I waited. Footsteps hit the gravel hard. Colette burst through the front door like she'd been chasing a fire. She stopped when she saw me. "Marlene," she said. Not mom, not mother. Just my name like it was something she had to dig out from the back of her throat. Behind her, Ethan appeared red-faced, holding his phone. I didn't rise. "You need to leave," she snapped. "We can discuss this inside." I didn't move. I opened the binder. Slowly, 1 page at a time. "Neighbors are watching," she hissed. And they were. 2 stood by their mailboxes. One across the street whispered to his wife. Another leaned out the second-story window. A boy on a scooter slowed down, stared, then circled back. "Is that her mom?" someone murmured. I held up the deed. The original. Signed by Arthur. Filed under my name. Dated 10 years before Colette ever walked through this door. Ethan stepped forward. "You can't just sit here and I can," I said. I reached into the folder, pulled out the final court ruling. Monica had printed it on heavy paper, clean, embossed. Gold seal at the bottom. I handed it to Colette. Her hand trembled when she took it. She scanned the first paragraph, mouth tightening. Ethan leaned in, read over her shoulder. I let them soak it in. All assets reinstated. All prior transfers nullified. POA revoked. Ownership returned to Marlene Joyce Royce. Eviction order effective immediately. I stood, took 1 breath, looked her in the eye. "You locked me away," I said, voice even. "Now I've unlocked everything." She blinked. Ethan turned to the crowd forming at the sidewalk. "This is a misunderstanding," he called out. "Just a private family matter." No one replied. I stepped down from the porch. Binder closed. They didn't follow. The front door remained open behind them, wide, exposed, silent. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost standing outside her own life. The house looked different in the afternoon light. And I wasn't asking to come in. The truck pulled up at 7:42 a.m. Big, white, unmarked. I didn't order it. Monica did. Paid in advance. Paperwork airtight. Ethan stood on the porch in Sock's arms, folded face sunburned with shame. Colette paced the front yard, phone pressed to her cheek, whispering frantically. The driver ignored her, handed over the manifest, and walked straight into the house with his crew. She followed them, embarking about valuables, breakables, and privacy. No one responded. Every mover had a body cam. Every box was sealed in front of her. Neighbors peeked again. This time they didn't hide it. Evicted by Mom had already made its way across town. Someone posted footage of the dinner. Someone else uploaded the porch confrontation. Colette's face was now a meme. Ethan's shout from WHO was clipped and looped into oblivion. At 10:03 a.m., Tyler knocked on my motel door. He didn't say much, just stood there, backpack slung over one shoulder, face pale. "I didn't know," he said. I nodded. Let him in. Poured 2 glasses of water. No ice. He sat at the edge of the bed like it burned. "They told me you were traveling, that you needed rest, that you asked to go." He blinked hard. I believed them. I know I said. I kept texting. "They said you weren't checking your phone. I thought maybe you were just done." "I wasn't," I said. He pulled out a folded piece of paper. A class project. Family tree. My name had been crossed out in pencil, then added again in pen. "I got in trouble for writing you back in," he whispered. I reached over, put my hand on his. "Then you did something right." By noon, The truck was full. The driveway cleared. Ethan tried one last play, shouting about rights and appeals and family forgiveness. But Monica was already on site. Calm. Legal documents in hand. She pointed to the curb. He followed. Colette came out last. Sunglasses too big. A scarf wrapped around her head like she was someone important. A small group had gathered across the street. Phones raised quiet laughter. She waved once. No one waved back. The door closed behind her. They left without looking at me. Tyler stood beside me on the sidewalk. "Are you going back in?" he asked. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because the keys were in my pocket. I slid the envelope across the table. Tyler stared at it like it might explode. "It's for you," I said. He hesitated, then opened it. 3 things inside a certified letter from the bank, a hand-signed statement, and a handwritten list. He read the first page slowly. A college fund. Locked. Protected. Grown from dividends Arthur planted years ago. It was always meant for Tyler. I had hidden it after Ethan tried to optimize the portfolio one too many times. His lips parted. This is still active." "Yes. You didn't cancel it." "No." He blinked fast. "Even after what they did, they're not you." The second page, a letter of intent. In plain words, I detailed the trust's terms. Tyler would be sole beneficiary upon reaching 21. If he chose to break contact with his parents for legal safety, I would help him do so. He didn't speak, just stared. Then he unfolded the third sheet. A list. Every asset his parents touched, every transaction disguised as a gift, every line of credit opened in my name. The refinance attempt, the quiet sale of my late sister's jewelry, the unauthorized withdrawal from the joint account. I'd itemized it all. Dates, amounts, witnesses. He covered his mouth. I didn't know he whispered. I thought the remodel was from the insurance. It wasn't. He folded the list carefully, like it hurt to touch. Tears gathered in the corner of his eyes. He didn't wipe them. "Will I ever be forgiven?" he asked. His voice cracked halfway through. I reached for my coffee, took one sip, let the silence settle. "That's not up to me," I said, "but I left the door open for one of you." He looked up. I meant it. This house didn't need saving. I did. But there's always room for someone who walks back through the door with their head down and their heart clean. I stood, picked up the envelope, handed it back to him gently. "Keep it safe," I said. He held it to his chest like it might fall apart in the wind. And then I opened the back door. Sunlight spilled across the tiles, and I stepped through. I parked across the street. Didn't get out right away, just watched. The apartment complex was newer. Gated. Generic. Beige stacked on beige. One planter of fake flowers near the leasing office wilted in plastic. I crossed the street without checking for cars. Walked straight to the mailbox cluster. Unit 3B. I slid the envelope in. No name on the front. No return address. Just wait. Inside 3 things. First, a copy of the hospital intake form dated 6 months ago. Admission reason involuntary placement due to cognitive decline. Signed by Colette. Approved by Ethan. Diagnosis pending. They'd written me off in blue ink. Second, a photo. Faded, bent at the edges. Colette in a paper hat. Her first birthday. Arthur holding her up while I cut the cake. She had frosting on her nose. My hand was reaching for a napkin. I flipped it over. The back still said, "First bidet Colette she loved banana." Third, a sticky note. 1 line. "Some burdens remember, no signature, no threat." I turned and walked back toward the car. Didn't look back. Didn't wait. Didn't need to. That envelope didn't need explanation. It just needed to exist. Let her open it when no one's watching. Let her hold the weight of what she discarded. Let her read her own handwriting on a form meant to erase mine. Let her see her own face before she learned to twist it. I drove home in silence. No radio, No calls. Only the sound of tires against pavement and a clock that ticked like it had waited for me to reclaim the hours they stole. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light flickered on automatically. Motion sensor still worked. I unlocked the front door, stepped inside, closed it behind me. The house didn't feel empty. Just quiet. Just mine. And on the hallway table, a second envelope waited. This one wasn't blank. I called the locksmith at 7 a.m. He arrived by 8. Didn't ask questions, just nodded at the old fixtures and got to work. Click, turn, unscrew, replace, new brass, new weight, new sound. The deadbolt clicked into place with a satisfying finality. Not loud, not aggressive, just certain. He handed me the keys. I didn't flinch as the old set went into the trash. I reclaimed the master bedroom next. Stripped the bed. Washed everything twice. Threw out their pillows. Opened the windows. Let the past blow out like stale air. The closet still smelled like me underneath the perfume Colette sprayed everywhere. I found my slippers shoved in the back. Still warm somehow, like they'd been waiting. I stood in the center of the room and breathed. No ghosts here. Just memory. Later that morning, I opened my laptop. Typed quietly. No announcement. No need to be seen. I emailed a local nonprofit I'd been watching for years. Second Spring Alliance, a support organization for elder abuse survivors. I asked to fund one full-ride scholarship for a woman over 60. No name on it, no photo, just a quiet transfer. I gave them instructions. Prioritize someone who'd lost housing, someone who still had fight left, but no place to plant it. Then I closed the laptop, didn't check my phone, didn't open the mail. I stepped out to the deck, sat in the old wooden chair, wrapped my fingers around a mug of black coffee. The fog rolled in soft like an old friend returning. No rush, no voice, just presence. No one needed anything from me that day. No form to sign, no favor to grant, no apology to accept. I didn't smile, didn't cry, didn't plan my next move. I just sat, still, whole. And when the wind shifted carrying salt and silence together, I let it in. All of it. I pulled a chair close to the window, not to watch for anyone, not to wait, just to sit. One chair, one cup, one breath. The coffee was hot, bitter, honest. No sugar, no cream, no pretending. The house didn't creak anymore. It settled, like it knew it was mine again. Beside me, the folder sat, closed, heavy, final, my new will. Signed, sealed, notarized. The house stays in trust. The fund splits between 3 nonprofits. Tyler gets the last piece, the only part earned, not expected. Colette hasn't called, not since the locks changed, not since the porch confrontation, not since her name stopped being useful. She didn't fight the court ruling, didn't challenge the documents. Maybe she knew. Maybe she'd always known. The silence from her end was loud but not unfamiliar. She always saved her warmth for strangers, her pride for company, her venom for family. Tyler still comes. He doesn't say much. Sometimes he brings groceries. Sometimes we sit and don't talk at all. The silence between us isn't painful. It's clean, like a table wiped down after a storm. He asked once if she cried. I told him I didn't know. I didn't ask. Some burdens are better left where they dropped. I took a sip. The bitterness settled under my tongue like truth. Outside, the fog lifted just enough to show the garden. The roses had bloomed again. First time in 2 years. No one tended them. They just returned. Like I did. Quietly. Without permission. Without welcome. But entirely mine. I leaned back. Let the cup warm both hands. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like something to be managed. I was still here, and I carried nothing that didn't belong to me.